church capital of North America, Lamont County. Please note this is a self-guided tour. There are no guarantees you'll be able to enter inside any of these churches. The official Lamont County Open Doors Church Tour was discontinued in 2012. Our story. Lamont County has a proud legacy as the birthplace of the oldest and largest agricultural settlement of Ukrainians in Canada. The nucleus of the pioneer Ukrainian colony was in the vicinity of Star, some 7 miles northeast of the modern-day town of Lamont. There, in 1894, 4 immigrant families filed for adjacent homesteads at what became the center of a thriving block settlement, which eventually encompassed the region that now comprises the Kelowna Country Eco-Museum. Not surprisingly, the historic Star District was also the site where organized Christian life first took root among Ukrainians in Alberta, about the same time that the sod huts originally put up as temporary shelters by the pioneers began to be replaced by modest thatch roof houses. As more newcomers from Europe made East Central Alberta their home, Lamont County experienced a remarkable church-building boom, expressive of the deep Christian faith brought over from the Old World by the settlers. This rich spiritual heritage is still very much in evidence today in the numerous churches that can be found in the towns and villages on country roads in virtually every part of the municipality. The churches of Lamont County include both sanctuaries of historical significance and uniquely beautiful structures that are representative of ancient architectural traditions that were imported to the New World. Important church etiquette. Please remember that places of worship are sanctified structures, and visitors are requested to keep voices lowered, refrain from unnecessary conversation, and to remove hats if they are male. Do not enter the sanctuary, the area behind the iconostasis, where the priest conducts the Mass, unless you are specifically invited to do so by a priest or parishioner. Although it is not expected, a small donation towards the upkeep of the church is greatly appreciated by each place of worship. Watch for people in the churchyard. They'll often be happy to show you around. Mundare and Area Church Tour. Total tour length, 56 kilometers. Welcome to the town of Mundare. The first settlers came to Mundare area from Scotland and Ontario and were soon followed by Eastern Europeans. The Ukrainian homesteaders, arriving in the late 1800s, welcomed Mundare's rich black soil similar to that of the steppes of the Ukraine. The fertile soil drew them to seek out homesteads in the wooded areas of Mundare's aspen parklands. Intermingled with the Ukrainians were Polish, German, French, English, Irish, Jewish, Scandinavian, and American settlers. In 1902, the Basilian Fathers arrived in Canada and soon established a religious community in the area surrounding Mundare. The Sister Servants of Mary Immaculate, who arrived in 1903, ran a school and much-needed orphanage. The Canadian Northern Railway was built through Mundare in 1905, and the community began to prosper and grow. With a population of approximately 100, Mundare was incorporated as a village in 1906 and was named after one of the earliest station agents, Mr. W. Mundare. On October 23, 1910, 1,000 people received Holy Communion in the unfinished church at Mundare Village. The largest parish was the Ukrainian Catholic. There were also Russian Orthodox, Ukrainian Orthodox, and others. In 1912, there were 2 automobiles in the village. The complete story of Mundare's history can be read in Memories of Mundare, published by the Mundare Historical Society, 1980. Take your lunch break in town. There are many excellent eating establishments where visitors are always made welcome in this small town with a big heart. Overnight campers would be well recommended to check out Ukrainian Park on the town's northern boundary, which is an excellent full-service facility. For enthusiastic photographers, visiting when the harvest is in full bloom, take the opportunity to snap the Red Barn, located on the east side of Highway 15, just before it joins with Highway 16. Basilian Fathers and Sisters Servants of Mary Immaculate. The community of Mundare is home to an important center in the history of Ukrainian settlement in Canada. In 1902, when the Mundare area was known as the Beaver Lake District, the first members of the Order of St. Basil the Great and the Sisters Servants of Mary Immaculate arrived from Ukraine to begin missionary work among their countrymen who had begun to settle in Canada 10 years earlier. Basilian Fathers Museum, Town of Mundare, 5419 Sawchuck Street. The museum, established in 1953, was first housed in the former printing press building located behind the present St. Peter's and Paul Ukrainian Catholic Church. A new museum building was opened in 1991 to mark the 100th anniversary of Ukrainian settlement in Canada. The museum features the history of Ukrainian settlement in Canada and the missionary work of the Basilian Fathers. It boasts an extensive collection of photographs and religious and cultural artifacts in a modern facility consisting of 3 galleries covering approximately 3,172 square feet. Contact the museum at 780-764-3887 for further information. Basilian Fathers Monastery, Town of Mundare, Sawchuck Street, north of 50th Street. As their numbers began to grow, the Basilian priests and brothers required larger and more permanent living quarters. Constructed in 1922, this is the oldest Basilian monastery in Canada. The Belgian missionary priest, Reverend Philip Roux, one of the best-known Ukrainian-Canadian church architects of his time, designed the 2-story brick structure. At its peak, it housed over 50 members, while today it is home to over a dozen Basilian Fathers. These include young novices who begin their training here and some of the oldest members of the order who live a quiet life in prayer after years of hard work throughout Canada. From this monastery, the priests serve over 20 churches, hospitals, convents, and senior citizens' homes in eastern central Alberta, where they celebrate the divine liturgy and minister to the faithful. In early years, this was the central mother house for the Basilian clergy, who provided pastoral care not only throughout Alberta, but also Canada and the United States. Please note, the monastery is not open to public viewing. Grotto, Town of Mundare, Sawchuck Street, immediately north of the monastery. This fascinating structure is designed so that the faithful can visit in order to pray and meditate privately. Although it has a main outdoor altar that is occasionally used to celebrate divine liturgies, the grotto is essentially a complex of small chapels, prayer stations, and catacombs designed to convey and emphasize the mystical element in the Ukrainian Catholic religious tradition. Reverend Porphyrius Bodner conceived the idea, after which construction began in 1932 with the creation of a small hill to represent Mount Calvary. A series of 14 stations of the cross lead up the hill, through trimmed hedges to the summit. Constructed from a combination of fieldstone, masonry, and concrete, the grotto took approximately a decade to complete. An 8.5-meter steel cross, erected in 1938 to mark the 950th anniversary of the baptism of Ukraine, lights up the night sky. Every year to mark the feast of the local patrons, Saints Peter and Paul, an outdoor divine liturgy is celebrated at the grotto with the participation of the bishop, local clergy, and over 1,000 faithful. Sister Servants Convent. North on Secondary Highway 855, just to the town limits. Turn left or west on Township Road 534. The first building at this location was constructed in 1928 and used as an orphanage until 1968, when the occupancy changed to a novitiate for training of young girls. In 1978, the original orphanage was demolished and the present structure was erected 2 years later. In 1994, the building was converted and now provides housing for approximately 22 senior sisters. Please note, the convent is not open to public viewing. Number 28, Saints Peter and Paul Ukrainian Catholic Church, Town of Mundare, 5420 Sawchuck Street. The first Saints Peter and Paul Chapel, built in 1903, was located a few miles southeast of present-day Mundare in the original Beaver Lake District, following the construction of the Canadian Northern Railway through the area. Mundare began to grow, and in 1910 it was decided to build the church on the village outskirts. On August 8, 1910, the cornerstone was blessed at a ceremony attended by the Canadian Prime Minister, Sir Wilfrid Laurier, who changed his travel plans to participate, and Premier Arthur Sifton of the province of Alberta. In October 1910, the church was consecrated by visiting Metropolitan Andrew Shipinski, OSBM, from Ukraine. The place of worship served the Mundare community until late 1969, when it was replaced by the existing sanctuary. The present church contains a beautiful series of frescoes by the Ukrainian iconographer Mykola Denisenko, stained glass windows depicting religious and historical events, a chandelier imported from Greece, and a much venerated icon, the Mother of God of Pochev, painted by the Italian artist Di Filippi. In 1984, the original Pioneer Chapel was moved to its present location between St. Peter and Paul Church and the Basilian Fathers Museum. Number 29. Our Lady of Perpetual Help Roman Catholic Church. Township Road 534, 2.5 kilometers west of Secondary Highway 855. Construction of this church began in 1915 and was completed in 1919. Archbishop O'Leary dedicated the sanctuary to Our Lady of Perpetual Help during his visit in 1921. A cement cross, which still stands in front of the church, was erected in 1924 to commemorate a mission from Friar Aloysius Staskevich. Wall paintings were done by Peter Lipinski, and the painting of Our Blessed Mother on a large altar was done by B. Imhoff of St. Walburg. Also of interest is the Dombrova graveyard, named after an earlier church located southwest of Mundare, which in turn was named after a famous cathedral in Europe. A large white concrete stone was erected here, on which are engraved the 55 names of those buried in the cemetery. Return to Secondary Highway 855 and continue east on Township Road 534 for 8 kilometers. Turn left or north and travel on Range Road 160 for 2.4 kilometers. Church number 30 is on the left or west side of the road. Number 30. Transfiguration of Our Lord Ukrainian Catholic Church. Spaz, Moskaliek. Range Road 160, south of Township Road 540. This church is often referred to as Moskaliaks, after the pioneering family whose quarter section was subdivided to create a churchyard. The Basilian Fathers provided pastoral care in the district, with the founder of the mission, Friar Platonid Phyllis, 1864 to 1930, traveling back and forth from the order's early mission to hold services in people's homes. The settlers soon decided a proper place of worship was needed and erected a small chapel in 1904. This burned to the ground in 1924, while the present church was being built. This second sanctuary, constructed in the shape of a cross, with one large dome in the middle and one smaller dome on each side of the facade, was officially blessed in 1926. A wooden belfry was put up in 1938, and the mission cross beside the church was erected in 1964. The interior of this sanctuary, which now holds only one major service at the end of May each year, is maintained in its original condition. The Spaz Church, as it is also known, was registered as an official historic resource in 1994. Continue north on Range Road 160 to Township Road 540. Turn left or west and travel for 3.2 kilometers on Township Road 540. Turn left or south on Range Road 162 for 0.8 kilometers. Church number 31 is on the right or west side of the road. Number 31. Siraki Chapel. Range Road 162, south of Township Road 540. Before the first log church was constructed at Moskalieks, church number 30, Peter Siraki, a founding member of that church, often hosted religious services in his home for family and neighbors. In 1940, in appreciation of their newfound freedom and love of the church, he commissioned 3 stonemasons to build an all-stone chapel on a 0.04-acre parcel of land on the northeast corner of his property. The chapel, constructed in traditional European style, is known as the Church of the Weary Traveler, or the Church of the Road. It is a walk-in chapel, about 8 feet wide by 12 feet long, with a round domed stone ceiling. Upon the altar is a statue of Saint Bernadette, as she saw the Blessed Virgin Mary at Lourdes. The chapel was consecrated by Friar Marco Romanowicz, OSBM, on August 28, 1940, and was dedicated to the 50th anniversary of the arrival of Ukrainian pioneers to Canada, 1891 to 1941. On August 5, 1990, the chapel was rededicated to the 100th anniversary of Ukrainian settlers in Canada, with the ceremony being officiated by the Basilian Fathers. Return north to Township Road 540. Turn left or west and travel for 3.2 kilometers. Then turn right or north on Range Road 164. Church number 32 is 9.6 kilometers north at the junction with Township Road 550, southeast corner of intersection. Number 32. St. Dimitri's Russo-Greek Orthodox Church, junction of Range Road 164 and Township Road 550. This sanctuary is often referred to as the Syriac Church. Since there were several Syriac families living in the area when the district was first homesteaded by immigrants from Bukovina in western Ukraine, after forming a congregation, local residents acquired 10 acres of land 8 miles north and 1 mile east of present-day Mundare, where they constructed a place of worship in 1905. Sometime in 1919 to 1920, this pioneer-era sanctuary was struck by lightning and burned to the ground, after which a larger church was erected on the same site in 1923. The second sanctuary served the St. Dimitri's congregation until 1967, when it too was destroyed by fire. The present church was built in 1968. The original bell tower, housing 2 bells, still stands on the site. Travel west on Township Road 550 for 1.6 kilometers to Secondary Highway 855. Turn right or north on Secondary Highway 855 and travel for 3.2 kilometers. Then turn left or west on Township Road 552 and travel for 6.4 kilometers. Church number 33 is on the north or right side of the road. Number 33. United Church of Canada, Ewan, junction of Range Road 164 and Township Road 550. The first church in the Ewan district, the Ukrainian Presbyterian Church of Krakow, was constructed in 1917. Following the establishment of the United Church of Canada, the Ewan congregation joined with the Andrew congregation in 1933 to form one pastoral charge. On July 30, 1936, the official name of the Ewan Congregation of the United Church of Canada was incorporated. The building was sold to St. John's Church at Pino in 1950. See Church number 10, when the present sanctuary was constructed. This is one of the few United Churches in Canada that is owned by the local Board of Church Trustees. Travel west on Township Road 550 for 1.6 kilometers to Secondary Highway 855. Turn right or north on Secondary Highway 855 and travel for 3.2 kilometers. Then turn left or west on Township Road 552 and travel for 6.4 kilometers. Church number 33 is on the north or right side of the road at the junction with Range Road 172. You have reached the end of the Mundare and area church tour. To return via Mundare, return to Secondary Highway 855, then travel 10 miles or 16 kilometers south to Mundare. Enjoy a tasty supper at one of the several fine eating establishments in the town of Mundare. We hope you enjoyed this tour. Lamont County thanks the following organizations whose contributions and support have made this presentation possible: Alberta Historical Resources Foundation, Jars Balan, Kalinia Country Eco Museum, towns of Bruderheim, Lamont, and Mundare, villages of Andrew and Shipman. Thank you.